Hi, it's Richard here from Intelligence Advisor IT Consulting with yet another in our series about the example projects. As you'll note, the image of me down in the bottom right-hand corner doesn't have his lips moving. That's because this was originally recorded in a very noisy place. Let's go and look at today's subject. Today's subject is the example project called Pathfinder. As you can see, it comes from the education field and is designed to help students or would-be students find out the best campus to apply to depending on their area of study. The key features are interview extensions, which is a new one, and then some core functionality like label visibility and value lists. Let's get a handle on the different rules, first of all, that you can use as a learning experience. The data model itself is pretty flat. As you can see, there's a large number of Booleans, which are used, some of them later on, to decide what's to be shown or hidden in the interview, such as whether you're eligible to do certain things. They are then used to remove useless pieces of information from the interview. So that's a very similar style. So let's take a look at an attribute like this one. This is to do with the northern and southern campuses. So the northern and southern campuses are basically the two areas of this university that you might be guided to, depending on the different study areas. So we'll push you towards either north or south, depending on whether you're eligible. As you can see in this example, a Bachelor of Arts is the best study area for you, depending on what you choose. I'm just going to open up this Word file and we'll have a look. I'll zoom right in. A Bachelor of Arts is the best match for the student if the student is interested in studying social sciences and languages and any of the following are true. So basically we're trying to work out what would be the best recommendation for a student depending on their answers to a bunch of fairly straightforward questions. Let's take a look at some of the other Word documents that we have at our disposal in this project for learning purposes. So the northern campus offers the course of interest if, and then we have the same for the southern campus. Basically, depending on the intermediate decisions we made, then we'll recommend you go to the north or the south. Let's open up one more Word file. Scholarships. Scholarships are basically organizations or groups that will give you money to help you finance your student life, and you can see there's a variety of scholarships available with different criteria. And to finish off, this is the fourth of the 4 documents. We have some system rules regarding some Booleans to transform text data into an easy true-false, such as the student is interested in studying law if the student's chosen department equals law. So this should all be very familiar to you if you've been following some of the other example projects. If not, it's a fairly standard way of transforming text data into a Boolean. And then we have some visibility rules for the screens. So now that we've taken a better look at the rules, we can probably dig into the interview, and you'll notice that the interview has been styled a little bit. It has only a few screens. It has some straightforward visibility rules on a couple of the screens. You can see here they are shown, sorry, not visibility rules, rather they're using standard visibility, show if relevant. So we're removing things that are not relevant, and that's at the screen level. So screens will only be shown if they correspond to the goal of the interview in terms of relevancy. We have a bunch of basic questions which are used then to trigger information about scholarships and what have you. And where do you want to live on campus? And it's really all in the recommendation screen that it happens. We have a variety of different elements that are hidden or shown, along with some kooky little graphics here that says this is the best match for you. And these are all controlled by visibility rules. As you can see in the case of the best match, they are basically images which are displayed to give you the impression that we've done something intelligent when in fact we've made some very simple decisions. And then we have some show if rules to decide when to show you the right or the southern campus or the northern campus and so forth. So it's really very straightforward in terms of how it's structured. It's a great learning opportunity for you to work out how a Boolean attribute such as you are eligible for something can then be used to decide whether you should be shown some information or not. And then we have a couple of elements at the bottom for external links to take you to apply for something. What you will notice is that the styling has undergone quite a makeover. We have a header here called Higher Education, and we have some fairly customized styling. But when you run the interview, this is when it gets interesting. When you run the interview, you'll notice that all is not what it seems. I'll put it in a large browser, so I use Control F5 to run the debugger in this case, and you see that the traditional kind of train line flow at the top of the page has been replaced by a new graphical flow with 4 steps with custom images. I'm going to go ahead now and enter some data in this first page. I'm going to say that I'm interested in business, and you'll notice that when I choose first level here, the lower level options change. So that's an example of a hierarchical value list, which we'll come back to in a minute. Then we have a bunch of fairly straightforward questions. You'll notice that the flow at the top of the page is changing as we move through the interview, and we get to the final recommendations page, and we only see the relevant information. So obviously a lot of work has happened here at the top in that area. And let's take a look, first of all, at, if we go back to this page here, we'll take a look at this subject and specific discipline. As I mentioned earlier, these two are linked. So you can choose a subject and then a specific area, and you'll notice that there are actually 2 value lists. The value list that essentially is responsible for getting you to choose a high level, and then another value list allowing you to select a lower level. And they are shown in the form of a hierarchy, which you can visualize when you're in the project tab in the value list. Hierarchical, or indeed value lists as a whole, they are essentially XML files, and they are used to present the user with a set of information. If I export one of these and open it up in an XML editor, I'll get rid of that and zoom in a little bit. There we go. So here are my values, and you will notice that there is a value list name, and that was discipline. And you'll notice up here we have child list. So this is possibly a very poor demonstration, but what I'm trying to say is that 2 value lists can be merged into one to essentially create a parent and child value list. The way you do that is actually within XML, and then you import it back into Oracle Intelligent Advisor. There's no easy tool to create hierarchical lists, but if you have 2 lists that you need to meld together, you can do that pretty easily. And it's worthwhile looking in the documentation to find out how to do that. Now I'm going to turn my attention to the interview extension, which obviously is JavaScript, and you can see that it is an extension of type custom navigation bar. And without going into too much detail in this kind of thing, what is important is that it essentially uses a bunch of images. As you can see here, there's one for the clicked and one for the not clicked version. And those, they've called them the images and the disabled images. And they're going to load from the interview the set of stages. And you'll see that this interview is made up of several stages. There we go, I show them to you now. So that data is loaded into the extension and is then going to be used to display the images. Each image represents essentially one stage. You'll notice that they then build on-click events so that when the user clicks on one of those custom images, we know what to do. And it will involve essentially navigating you to the relevant stage or the relevant screen. So again, I don't want to go into too much detail in case you're not a particular technical person, but there are other things that this extension has to deal with, such as what is the state of the stage. As you probably know, screens and stages, they can be visited, not yet visited, they may not be available yet because you have to navigate through a set of logical flow to get to a particular screen. So it has to take into account that when you start the interview, certainly, for example, not everything will be available straight away. There are also some specifics here to do with image displays. If you're running this on a Windows mobile or a Windows tablet or a Windows device, there's some custom functions to handle asynchronous loading of images, which it won't affect most of you, but you might be asking yourself, why is there a second function in there to load the images? And all that results in the funky stage flow that you can see at the top of the page. So you can see here that when I put my mouse on it, I get a little tool tip, I'll go ahead now and carry on with my demo. I'm going to enter my name. I'm going to enter the fact that I'm a permanent resident. You may recall there were a couple of rules related to permanent residency or not, which had an impact on eligibility. And I'll carry on working my way through the interview, choosing in this case a different residency status. In fact, I'll reset and go around one more time. I'm a citizen. I choose from the parent and child value list. Am I from a low-income family? Yes or no. Do I intend to live on campus? Yes, I do. And the recommendations show up. And I can use the custom navigation bar to go back through the stages and see the tooltips to remind me of where I've been. Let's go round again. And you'll notice in this case, as I start the interview, those stages are not currently yet available. That's what I was talking about when I said that the interview extension has to manage the fact that not everything is available straight away. So these images are used and displayed accordingly, and the interview extension has to work out what is the right image to display at any given time based on the current state of the stage. So that was a custom navigation bar. A custom navigation bar has available to it the interview object, which gives us access to things like the stages and the screens in a stage and the contents of a screen. So you're able to manipulate or at the very least study that information in your interview extension. I'm sure you can think of plenty of ways to customize interview extensions. If you're interested in interview extensions, we have a book called The Consultant's Guide to Interview Extensions, which contains 70 different ones. I hope you enjoyed this walkthrough of the Pathfinder project. Look forward to seeing you again in the next one. Take care.